That's a fancy button. All right. And as we get started today, I want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining our colloquium with Dr. Alice Kim. I wish to acknowledge that we're meeting here today on the traditional, ancestral, and unsurrendered lands of the Musqueam people. In reflecting on these lands that we work and meet on, I'm always struck by the history of these lands as being used as a site for learning across generations, a history that I hope that we'll be able to continue to honor today. I also recognize that those joining on Zoom are likely joining from many places and wish to acknowledge the traditional caretakers of those lands as well. And I've been thinking about how to honor these lands and the traditional Musqueam caretakers in conjunction of this talk. Just a little bit down the road from us in Totem Park, one of our first year residence halls, one of the halls is called the Hemlisum House. It's a name that was gifted to it by the Musqueam Nation about 10 years ago when the residence was originally built. And Hemlisum refers to a site of transformation. It comes from a story about an individual who didn't want to share, was unwilling to share their resources. And so they were transformed into a rock. And the Musqueam people picked this name for the residence hall because they wanted the students to remember and to appreciate the value of sharing and the importance of sharing, because otherwise we would be but a rock. And I thought this was really apropos for today's talk, first because I believe we'll all be able to transform and grow from Dr. Kim's lessons. And also because I really think it speaks to Dr. Kim's work on the dissemination and sharing of research on the scholarship of teaching and learning. And so I hope we again can continue to honor that history here today. And we're of course thrilled to welcome Dr. Alice Kim. Dr. Kim earned her PhD from the University of Toronto and is now the interim assistant program head for psychology at the University of Guelph-Humber. In 2019, Dr. Kim founded the Teaching and Learning Research and Action Organization, of which she serves as the managing director. The Teaching and Learning Research and Action Organization is a nonprofit focused on the dissemination of scholarship on effective teaching and learning practices. And not only does Dr. Kim publish research in the scholarship of teaching and learning, but she's additionally the co-author of the Canadian Journal of Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and has twice received the Ontario Research Coalition's Early Researcher Award. I don't know how long Early Researcher is, but the fact that one can get it twice seems pretty incredible to me in that short period of time. And so I'm thus very excited to welcome Dr. Alice Kim and look forward to her talk on fostering community and connection in the classroom, insights from research on online, in-person, blended, and hybrid flexible learning contexts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Hello, online folks. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm super happy to be here for multiple reasons. Like one, I'm just seeing some old friends walking in person for the first time in years, meeting friends I met online in person for the first time ever, meeting new people from a different province in person for the first time in years, because I haven't really been doing this kind of thing for about a few years actually. So happy to be here. I'm aware that we have folks online too and folks in person. So hello to folks online, the camera's over there. Interested to know where you're all tuning in from. So just to let you know, the online folks, to let you know, I do have my chat open here. I also have my glasses, so I can read. If you are willing and able to just share really quickly where you're tuning in from, that'd be great. And I can relay this information because the in-person folks do not see the chat, but I do. Okay, so we have someone from Point Grey, Prince Edward Island, San Francisco, Guelph. Well, San Francisco. Hi, Audrey. Guelph, and I don't see the chat box moving now, but I will check. Oh, the Okanagan campus. Awesome. I didn't know there were two campuses until now. Waterloo, Ontario, Dunbar here in Vancouver. Awesome. Very cool. And I spoke to Simon this morning from South Africa. That was cool. Okay, this is going fast. Kitsilano here in Vancouver, Richmond Hill, Ontario. Yes, my Richmond Hill people, that's where I am from as well. So lots of folks all over. So thank you so much. I wanted to start also by checking in with how is everyone doing? Okay, there it is. Don't hate me for liking emojis, okay? So I had a conversation about this with my husband who's a designer and he wasn't thrilled, but it's okay. It's okay. He's not here. This is my talk. So, and I want to do this low tech kind of way, just a quick check-in. Everyone in person, everyone online. I think the online folks, you can just maybe do your digital hand up. I'm going to ask folks in person, just put your hand up. I'm not going to ask you to name the emotion or the emoji or what it means, and not going to ask you to explain why, but just get a sense of where everyone is at right now. Oh yeah, so that's Richmond Hill. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so for folks who are identifying with number 1, just raise your hands, your digital hands or your physical hands. Okay, awesome. How about number 2? Yeah, I always feel like this a little bit. I think it's okay to pick more than one because you can definitely feel more than one thing, right? Oh, so this happened. Okay, right. Okay. Number 3, online folks, I can't really see. I don't know if you're not putting up your hands, but I don't see anything. Okay, I'm trying. Number 3, do we have any number 3s? None in the room, none online that I can see. Number 4, we have some number 4s. Oh, we have some number 4s online. Okay, it's working. Okay, good. Oops. And then some more. I see about 2 online hands. I'm going to try to communicate what I see here. Oh, I can open this up. Okay, yeah. 1 online hand for number 4. And what about number 5? Feeling this too? Okay, so we have 3-ish, 4-ish, 4 in person, 2, 4, 5, 6, about 6 or 7 online feeling number 5. Okay. Is that a question?
Yes, I wanted to say I was number 2 all week. And then when I saw you, Alice.
Aw, you're the best. I felt like that when I saw you walking in. So thank you so much. Okay, so we're all in. Okay, is that a hand? If you have questions, I have to say, if it's a quick question, just clarifying, please do not hesitate, just ask. But if it's like a long kind of philosophical question, maybe we can wait till the end if that's okay. Okay, I do see a hand up online, but I think it's probably participating in the emoji thing, right? You can just write it in the chat box. Okay, there we go, it's gone. Okay, so another thing, I'm still not done talking about everyone here. I want to go to my next slide where I'm going to ask, what do you think you would have been doing 2 years ago today? And I think I'm having technical difficulties here changing my slide. But I will just say the next thing I want you to do is just take a moment and think about what you would have been doing 2 years ago today. So we don't have to be super specific. I know, just think about March 2021. What would we have been doing? If you want to share, just generally, what do you think you may have been doing?
Stuck in a house with a 1-year-old.
So yeah, stuck at home with a 1-year-old. Do you want to take a moment and chat with whoever is close to you? Yeah, go ahead. We have time. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Online folks. Okay, I see some activity here. I'm going to share it with the in-person group here. I see some things here. If you want to chat, we can have a separate chat for online. I see online classes, studying for finals, house cleaning, online classes, working in the sun, enjoying the spring breeze. Awesome. Chris just started working with TLR. That was amazing. At my kitchen counter, working on something. Or other, exact same thing as now, watching a Zoom talk or in a Zoom meeting. Yep, we're gonna get to that, definitely. So let me just connect back with the in-person crowd and see what they're gonna say, and I'll definitely share some of the thoughts that you've included in the chat. Okay, in-person folks, can we have, do you want to do a few people or a few groups want to share just what you may have been doing 2 years ago today? And I can just repeat for the online folks, or maybe the mic will be passed around. I'm not sure, but yeah. Go. What would you have been doing, kind of, around this time? I'll share online as maybe as the mic is being passed around online. Folks said that they were studying for finals, doing an online classes, doing the same thing they're doing now, working at UBC online, starting new jobs, doing what they're doing now, which is watching a Zoom talk or a Zoom meeting. Yeah, and then we have a smiley face here. So what about in-person folks? What would you have been doing like 2 years ago?
Definitely in a Zoom meeting. Yeah, probably one of many that day for thinking of a Thursday.
Yeah, like more meetings than usual, right?
Yeah.
Than before, maybe. Yeah, okay, so lots of Zoom meetings. Anything different than Zoom meetings? Yes.
I think I was handing him a computer in front of my house.
Okay. So sharing resources to do Zoom meetings, to do more Zoom meetings. So online folks always said is what one person was handing the person beside them a computer, maybe so they can do more Zoom meetings themselves. Okay, anything different or base? Yeah.
We were talking about online classes.
Yeah.
Online classes.
Yeah, online class. So I think, yeah, that's where I'm going. That's really, I can't see my screen here, but all right, that's where I'm going. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been here for sure. I think we were all kind of navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. We all had slightly different situations, but probably from what I'm hearing, most of us, and I kind of predicted, most of us were probably doing something like this. So it could be a Zoom meeting, it could be online classes, like either as a student or an instructor. It doesn't matter if you're a student or instructor, you're probably doing lots of Zoom meetings because that's really how we were connecting. And so I got really interested, me and a bunch of, I guess, my colleagues back in Toronto, we got really interested in this whole transition to emergency remote instruction, or just swiftly moving to online kind of thing. And so we started documenting people's experiences with the hope of trying to, collate some ideas about if something like this were to happen again, like hopefully not another pandemic, but another situation where you have to swiftly kind of change your mode of instructions. What are some lessons that we can take from here, and also just online in general? So if I've talked to you in the past, or we know each other a little bit, you might already know I'm super interested in digital pedagogies, and I'm interested to know how we can make it effective, because if we can, I think it would help not solve, but it would help a lot of issues that globally that we're dealing with, especially in terms of education. So sometimes I go on tangents. To get back to what I was talking about, we asked a bunch of instructors by way of doing this collaborative autoethnography of instructors, based on your own teaching and learning experiences. In what ways do you think that students' circumstances differed? And this is in the context of transitioning into emergency remote instruction. And so, so what some of the instructors said, here are some passages, just two that I'm going to share. One instructor said, "I need to be mindful that many of my students do not have the luxury and privilege of solely being concerned with being a student. And now that COVID-19 crisis places even greater stressors and demands on their lives." So, the instructors that we talked to were very concerned about their students. They were navigating the pandemic, but they also kept in mind, what are our students going through? Another instructor shared that before switching over, I asked my students to get in touch with me if they did not have reliable internet access in a place where they felt safe, or if other environmental factors were impacting their ability to proceed with the course. Because we know, again, everyone's situation was a bit different. We know that the rates of abuse and a lot of negative things actually increased during the pandemic, and not everyone feels or felt or feels safe at home. So a lot of different circumstances. So for instructors here, hands up, if you kind of had these same kind of feelings or thoughts going through your mind as you were moving over. I do see some hands up, lots of hands up in person, and online folks, I have not forgotten about you. Hands up here online. Maybe we have not that many instructors online, or I'm just not so good at navigating this. Okay, but certainly lots of, okay, see some hands up online too. We do have these same thoughts. Moving on. So with this in mind, me and my colleagues got very interested, as we were moving through this pandemic, we were really interested in questions like this one. How did students experience the transition of their courses from in-person to remote delivery during the COVID-19 pandemic? And I did leave a QR code at the top right, because this paper is now published. So I'm going to go over it very broadly and not go through the details. But the details are on the paper, and I'm also happy to chat about it after the talk if anyone is interested. But just really broad brushstrokes, I'll say, to look into this question, we conducted this study that involved collecting data from 50 undergraduate students. These were all psychology students. They weren't first year, they weren't fourth year, they were mid-level. And they were enrolled in a specific context that is a primarily undergraduate institution, right? So no graduate program, it's all undergrad students. And this institution is based in New York, and it's that one right there with the logo. It's not a secret. Okay, so just to contextualize more, it's been a couple years, I guess a few years, since all of this happened. So just to contextualize the data that I'll be presenting, March 1st, 2020, that is when the first case of COVID-19 was reported in New York City. March 7th, the state of New York declared a state of emergency due to COVID. And then mid-April, this is when New York was experiencing lots of unfortunate consequences due to the pandemic. So this is the context in which we collected data from students. Oops. So start of remote delivery for SUNY, like the State University of New York, where we collected the data. The start of remote delivery started between March 28th and April 1st. And from that point forward, we started collecting students' guided reflections on their experience of everything that they were experiencing during this transition. And so we had them complete bi-weekly reflections every 2 weeks, that is, until the end of the course. So that is May 10th and May 13th, they completed a guided reflection. And so I don't want to get into too much of the details about the critical incident questionnaire, which is what we use to guide their reflections. But I will say that the questions that we were most interested in, the ones we analyzed were 3. And basically, it looks like a lot of text to me, so I'll just tell you what it means. The first one is asking students, when did they feel most engaged? What happened? Second, when did you feel most distanced from the course? Like, what was happening? And also, thirdly, what was most helpful to you? Or like, when did it happen? That kind of thing. And so what I'm interested in sharing today is the responses to what did students find most helpful. And so just wondering, like folks online, folks in person, any ideas of what you think students found most helpful during this transition to emergency remote instruction? You can think about it. Maybe just think about it on your own. Or you really, okay, Jacob, yeah.
So I was a student during this time, and I found that asynchronous instruction was particularly hard because it was just me trying to learn the material on myself. But when we had synchronous sessions where the teacher and other students were present and I could actually talk to them, that was really helpful, and just seeing other faces, but also asking questions if I needed to enhance my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And sir, you had your hand up, but I would.
Well, that's okay. Flexibility and deadlines and dates and things.
Yeah, absolutely. So flexibility, and also being there for students, not like making sure they felt supported. Anything different or that you want to add? Yes. Yes, communicating. Do you want to elaborate or leave it there? So,
More communication and asking students if this is working for them.
yeah.
Very timely.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Asking if this is working for you and not making assumptions about what students need. Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Online folks, I do see here consistent support from Lucy. Yes, absolutely. That, yeah. So maybe the answer is the answer is obvious. Sorry, I said information because we have Sue saying information. Yeah, absolutely. So, maybe for this crowd, the answer is obvious, but we did go ahead and we did do this study, and I will show you the answers that we got too. So basically everything that you're saying, instructors, actions of the instructor and peer cooperation. Those are the two main things or two main themes that kept coming up again and again over the 4 weeks. To be a bit more specific, instructor actions, we came up with that term. What does it refer to? It refers to students referencing their instructor providing learning resources to support their learning, so not leaving students alone. Asynchronous can be a little bit tricky. It's not bad, but it could be tricky, right? Providing clear and organized course content, which made course content easier to navigate. So a lot, just again, reiterating things that folks have already said here. And then the last one, providing updates during the COVID-19 pandemic regarding the course. And I should add the university too. Like that's what I didn't add on this slide. They wanted updates from the instructor, but what's happening with the university in general, what's happening with the course. These are all things that were reoccurring. I found this super interesting. I don't know why. It should be, I guess it's obvious in hindsight, but I found it interesting that students talked a lot. They mentioned a lot positive student interactions or students contributing positively to the collective class experience, working with peers, peers contributing to the class, just hearing peers speaking live. That actually came up a lot too in many different circumstances and contexts. So again, like all the details, like it's all there. You want to know the prevalence of all this and everything, it's all there. It's just go QR code, paper is there. Happy to talk to you about it after. But here I just want to share some of the passages. Like these are the things that we were reading through and categorizing and trying to interpret. So for example, the instructor's name, they put the instructor's name, we took it out. The instructor and other professors were able to fill us in with information available about the coursework and other information about the course transferring to online. So again, communication, not waiting for students to ask, but just being as like relaying or mediating as much as possible what is known. One student said, my peer continued to encourage me and check on me as we distance learning because she knew my situation and kept me up to date with my deadlines for the class. So peer support, that came up a whole bunch. It was by far most helpful, they said most in capitals, most helpful to work with a classmate after we watched the lectures to make sure we both understood the content correctly. We studied together before the midterm and before the final, which I found to be most beneficial to remembering content. So again, positive interactions with peers was super important. Okay, another student said the clarity and explanation of everything we have to do for the week from our professor is the most helpful. So again, clear instructions from the instructor, being proactive, not waiting for students to ask questions about specifically what I should just do, what they should do, but just being super clear from the beginning. And I think this is the last one I have here, but so the Watch Me First video, this was a video that the instructor created, just going over everything that they've provided online for the week and what's going to happen, any updates from the university. So these videos were really helpful for me, is what one student said. It's like an add-on to the email she sent out to give us a step-by-step breakdown of everything we need to do for the week. Okay, so In hindsight, this all makes a lot of sense. It makes lots of sense, and it aligns with literature as well. We know from classroom community and student achievement research that peer social acceptance is positively related to academic achievement. So having those positive interactions with other students, studying together, checking up on each other, this is all actually correlated with how well they do in a course. Perceptions of student-teacher relationships. Do you have a good relationship with your instructor? Do you like your instructor? Do you feel like they're supporting you? This is all also positively related to how well students do in a course, which is not surprising. We also know that the association or this relation between student teachers and how it relates to the work, this is partially mediated by student engagement. So how engaged a student is, how motivated they are, yes, that does come into play. Partially though, partially. So partially not is what I'm saying, right? So lastly, just to point out, we also know community provides students with a sense of identity and belonging. It also enables students to learn together so that they can achieve common learning goal. And so I think that's really important when you say learning together, because I never really thought about it like that. But as I do more and more of research on this topic, it's becoming abundantly more clear that the together part is actually super important. And hopefully that will come across more clearly as I progress in this talk. Okay, so with all that in mind, a few of my colleagues, so Linda Carrozza, Hillary Davis from York University, we started getting interested to see what are the outcomes of community, all this, how does this actually influence students' learning? Can we actually have something tangible to say? So one question we're looking into is this: are students' perceptions of community, is this predictive of their final grades in the course? We are taking final grades as academic achievement or a measure of their learning. I know this is a different conversation. There are many ways that you can measure learnings, but just for now, I'm just going to stick to this. So grades, learning, open to conversation maybe after the talk. Okay, so there was some challenges when we set out to do this. The first one is this. There wasn't really an operational definition of community that we could really use, like one that many people agreed on. No, so we didn't have that. But so I'm going to butcher this name. Tresplasius, sorry, did a scoping review, and in their review they found, although there is no consensus in terms of how we define classroom community, there are some commonalities. So the three major things: sense of belonging, meaningful relationships among students and instructors, and also shared values and goals, shared learning goals, shared values in terms of how class conducted, so forth. Okay. Fortunately, we did find some helpful information. So that is work by Rove, who identified 4 dimensions of classroom community. And this is pretty agreed upon in the literature. So we have something called spirit that we actually like to refer to as connectedness, because that's how we understand it. If we read Rove's writing, I think, what makes more sense to us is saying connectedness. It's more of an intuitive link to the meaning. Trust, interaction, and common learning goals. So we're working with this, and I want to say that this is a preliminary study. We have some results. I will share those results, but I will also talk about our next steps for this. So we are working with some data collected from 89 students. It's a survey about the course. So Linda, Hillary, they are teaching this in remote, asynchronous, general education course. It's a distance education delivery. Students who are enrolled in this course come from various disciplines, different years of study. The data were collected on 2021, 2022 from a large university in Ontario, Canada. and it's York. Like, I guess, yeah, that's not a secret, it's York. So the survey was really about formative feedback about the course. As it turns out, it was interesting. Like, there were some questions that we thought that we could look into using these data. So they went through the process of doing the REB approval. That's all sorted out. And I'll tell you about this. So, okay, I talked a bit about the survey. There's 35 questions, and the topics that Linda and Hillary were interested in learning more about with their class is accessibility, technology, community, and instructor presence. As it turned out, we found that a subset of the questions from their survey aligned with the 4 dimensions of classroom community that I showed in the last slide. So that's Rove's work. So here are some examples. And I already know, like, maybe you're already thinking, is this survey validated? Is it valid? Is it reliable? I don't know, like, no, the answer is no, okay? But we have these data available. And so we started, this is just exploratory work. And I promise you, I will tell you how we are addressing the reliability and validity of all of this, okay? It's basically collecting more data. But anyway, so here's what it is. So here are some sample questions that fell into the category of connectedness. The course instructors seem to care about students, our progress, and our successful course completion on a scale of 1 to 5. Like, what do you think? I felt invisible to the course instructor and lost among all the students taking this course. That's another rating, 1 to 5. So you'll notice that some of the questions are kind of in opposite directions. So, you know, 5 would be super positive as a response to one question, but like highly negative to this one where, you know, if students felt invisible. We did account for that when we analyzed the data, just so you know, in case you're thinking. Okay, last example, I felt connected to the other students in the course, so on, so forth. About 5 to 6 questions categorized for each dimension. I think I'm just going to do one more, just like, I'm not going to do all dimensions, but I'll do interaction. These are the kinds of questions that were categorized for interaction. Students were given opportunities to interact with one another, exchange information, and collaborate. Again, students responded to this on a scale of 1 to 5. Question number 2, students were given opportunities to interact in online discussions asynchronously. For example, e-class forums. E-class is the LMS or learning management system used there, and discussion groups, again, 1 to 5. So again, okay, last one, I'll just read through this. I would have preferred more opportunities to interact with other students, exchange information, and collaborate. Another sample question that was categorized as interaction. So this is what we did. And next, after categorizing some of the relevant questions to the dimensions of interest, we did a regression analysis to investigate whether students' perceptions of community according to the 4 dimensions were predictive of how well they did in the course. And I mean, by that, I mean final grade. So it turns out that only connectedness was predictive of students' final grades. What was not included here is interaction, trust, and common goals. And so we'll talk about this more in the following slides. I promised you I'd talk about how it wasn't reliable and valid, right? So the next step is to collect more data using the classroom community scale, which is valid and reliable. And so we want to know if we use this valid and reliable scale, are we going to replicate these same findings? I will let you know. I'll let you know. I don't know. You know, the interesting thing about this scale is that there's 2 interpretable factors, and that's connectedness and learning. And so connectedness, just again, I'm just maybe seeing patterns because I'm thinking about it, but it makes sense that connectedness did come out as one of the factors. On the topic of connectedness, again, I'm just going to go through this very quickly. We collected some data. Well, I'll say this. We documented students' experiences of of their remote placement course, and sporadically, I'll say unsolicited, in their own reflections, they talk about connectedness and the importance of it and interacting. It just came up, like we didn't ask them. So just very quickly to contextualize, this was a collaborative autoethnography. The purpose of this piece was to investigate whether student partnerships can be fostered in a virtual context. Have you heard of student partnerships? Like, you heard that term before? Or? Yeah. No. So one yes, lots of no's, and online nothing, no response here. 1 second. So student partnership. Does anybody want to talk about, like, explain that, or should I just give a quick blurb? I'll do. Okay. So basically, when we talk about student partnerships, we're talking about partnerships between students and faculty and staff. And the idea here is that we work together to co-create. It could be curriculum, it could be something scholarly, but the idea is that everyone is considered as an equal partner, maybe with different skills and different expertise, but the idea is that everyone is bringing value to the table here. So all about everything, co-creation, co-working, that kind of thing. And so back to this, we documented the experiences of 2 students completing a semester-long placement course for credit, and experiences of staff from the partner organization. Okay, this happened overlapped with the onset of COVID. The partner organization was Teaching and Learning Research and Action, the not-for-profit that I'm associated with. And the work we do is focused on effective pedagogy. We're doing some research together with the placement students. And just to contextualize, we were meeting with the students in person, and then transitioned to teleconferencing when we had to minimize our in-person activities. So I just thought that it was interesting that some of the things that came up were things like this. So one student wrote in her reflection, online meetings were helpful, but I found that the occasional in-person meeting was much more productive. The conversations feel more natural in person, and connections feel more interpersonal. And I bolded that because it just, maybe I'm just making links here, but we never asked anyone to talk about connections or interactions. This is what was important to the students. Communication is much easier when facial expressions and body language are easier to see, and there is no computer lag disrupting anyone's speech. Yeah, definitely. The other student wrote, during my placement with TLR, I found the group meetings and calls to be most engaging. So a lot of interaction, like the focus here is on the interaction. This provided an opportunity for me to not only interact more with the group, but also to be able to receive any comments, feedback, and answers in real time. And we are reading and receiving a lot of feedback about real-time interactions. And maybe that is because that is how we connect, or it helps, it's more conducive to connecting. So again, more and more interest on our end, my end, and the folks that I'm working with on connectedness. So we started moving on to this question: what enhances and detracts from students' experiences of connectedness? And this is from an online course offering. That works. Okay, so here I'm going to be showing some data that were collected from 82 participants. It came in the form of a questionnaire. Again, pretty broad brushstrokes, just to make sure that I can get through everything, but happy to talk more about anything afterwards. But I will just say what you do need to know is that this is a project-based capstone course. So in this context, students are working together on a project that is meant to solve an existing real-world issue or problem. The students come from various faculties. So that's another interesting thing. So it's not just all psychology students, it would be psychology, dance, engineering, all coming together. And usually there were about like 7 to 10 students per group. All of these students are from a large Ontario university. In terms of instruction or offering, it was a remote synchronous offering, and the data were collected from between 2021 and 2022. And so what we were finding is that, like, for the most part, students did feel connected, or at least they say that they felt very connected. I will say their responses were completely anonymous, so I don't think there's a reason for them to not say what is real for them. But anyway, so yeah, many students felt very connected, but across the scale, we do have some that did indicate not feeling very connected. So what was it that enhanced students' feeling of connectedness in this context? Lots of so 27% of students who participated, they referenced regular meetings about the course, like meeting regularly about the course. This was the main reason for feeling connected. It allowed for personal connection through talking and expression. So a lot of students reference this weekly meetings, just regularly scheduled meetings, knowing that it's going to be there and showing up, the amount of time they spent together, and also creating familiarity and closeness. I think we all know, like, the more often you see someone, the more familiar someone is, or anything is, the more likely you are to have positive feelings or feelings of acceptance for them. So one student said, seeing each other multiple times during the week created a sense of familiarity and closeness with one another. Lots of comments like that, like lots of quotes or passages like that would all go into this category. I do see some, sorry for the delayed response here in the chat. I do see no and nope, but I don't know what that is in response to. Did I ask? Oh, okay. Sorry for the delay. Okay. What else enhanced students' connectedness? 23% of participants indicated that working together towards a common goal made them feel connected. So persevering through challenges as a team brought students closer together. Remember, this is in the context of a project-based capstone course where students had to come up with their own project, work through all the problems together. Very little was handed over to the students. Students indicated that working closely and intensely together, doing activities in class, working on a real world problem, made them feel connected with their peers. And an example passage of what we would have coded into this category is this: our setbacks brought us closer together to align our goals and help get over our obstacles. When we experienced failure, we realized we all still had the determination to do well, and those values enhance the connectedness of our team. So going through adversity together, setbacks, working through things together really brought students together. Okay, so I don't know why I was surprised about this. It makes total sense, but anyways, 16% of participants reference some type of casual interactions. And I know that's important. I didn't know, but now I know. Anyways, things like small talk, spontaneous interactions, personal sharing. I mean, it does seem obvious in hindsight. So there were many references to humor, fun, and socializing with team members. One of the relevant passages, or a passage that would be coded in this category, is this: just having small fun moments in meetings rather than it just being very serious the entire time helped us foster better relationships. At the beginning of the year, we were more serious, but as we warmed up and had fun with it, we really got to feel connected with one another. I mean, in hindsight, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, is that obvious to you already? Like, you say no. No. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. It was, yeah. So anyways, it is what it is. And now it makes sense to me. What made you feel disconnected? Any thoughts, in person or online folks, about what you think made students feel disconnected, or what would you think would make students feel disconnected in this context? Online, project-based course, working with students from different disciplines. You can just, you don't have to respond right away. Have a think. Yeah, I'm going to finish on time. So yeah, maybe I'll give you just like a minute to think about it. And you can even chat with whoever is beside you if you want. I do see, okay, I see some responses in the chat, but I'll just wait. I'm reading it. I'll let the in-person folks think about it themselves for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing easy that just not I had,
Okay, in-person folks, I've been having some suggestions, ideas here from online folks, but I think we've all agreed that we're going to wait to see what in-person folks say before we share what the online folks say. No one's disagreeing with me, so I guess that's what we'll do. Okay, so does anyone, yes, want to share?
So I think we could go with when there's a social norm to like have your video off, that makes people feel disconnected. Seeing all the black boxes is like somehow very.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah, that definitely came up. Yeah, camera, not being able to see people's faces. Yes, huge, huge, huge. And anything else in person, folks? Yes.
Difficulty scheduling meeting times or people blowing off meetings.
Yeah, that came up a lot. Not showing up to meetings. That came up through communication, like not coming to meetings, or like not engaging in meetings, not turning your camera on, not responding to messages, all that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Some of the things that came up online were, let's start from the beginning. Yes, seeing cameras off. Yes, not getting any responses. The traditions within each discipline and not understanding them. Yes, because remember, this is a interdisciplinary capstone course, so that definitely did come up. The virtual aspect or little to no opportunity to meet in person, that definitely came up. People who are loafing on the team, yes, yep. Technical difficulties, absolutely. some asynchronous and maybe asynchronous and people working at different paces. Absolutely. Yeah, so all of these things came up. Anything different that anybody wants to add? You don't need to. Yes.
Thinking of people being differently impacted by the pandemic
Yes.
and how experiencing people who seem to not be hit as hard can create that disconnection.
Yeah, exactly. Like not understanding different circumstances and like expectations not being shared. Like what do you know, how do you expect your peers to interact? Not everyone wants to turn their camera on, not because they don't want to show their face, but they don't want to show their background, maybe. You know, there are lots of different things here. Yeah, excellent. So I will say everything that I've heard here has come up. And I think they all came out in our coding as well. So this I'm not going to go into as much detail, but I did indicate just broadly things that came up. So under the category of communication, so this came up, 18% of students indicated something about communication, like lack of communication, you know, not responding to messages, not talking during meetings, you know, having your camera off. I didn't indicate that here. I didn't list it here, but not having cameras off, really, people did not like that. Miscommunication came up a lot. I think that came up because students were using WhatsApp, they were using asynchronous ways to communicate, and it wasn't a live interaction where they could follow up with clarification. Busy schedules. So this came up, busy schedules, course load, external factors that prevented students from communicating with their team. What it actually says, not showing up to meetings, like not showing up to meetings because they were too busy, they were overwhelmed, they were doing lots of other stuff. So absolutely. All right. I don't know if remote learning is the best term, but right now it's what I'm going to say. So remote learning, 21% of students indicated factors specific to remote learning. So disruptions due to technology, not being able to see others either in person or on screen, like that came up under communication. But again, like specifically saying not being able to see the other person, that really bothered people because they would have rather, a lot of students are saying, I would rather just sit in class and be able to hear and see. I don't even know who my peers are. I'm just looking at boxes. COVID-19 restrictions, like not being in person. That had its own category. It came up, we left it like that because they say specifically not being in person. I don't know what else that could mean. So we just left it as not being in person. And you know, and it was due to COVID-19. That's what they said. Okay, small number, 4% of students said size of groups. I thought this was interesting. 4% of students referenced the number of students in their team. For example, one student wrote, sometimes when we divided the tasks into small groups, we felt connected as opposed to a big group of 7 students, which made it hard for everyone to connect well. Some students went on to say that in larger groups, some individuals didn't interact with the groups as much. And I thought this was interesting because we know, like if you are, you know, somewhat familiar with the literature on like working in groups, we know that the size does matter. We know that it's good to facilitate group work by giving roles as opposed to like leaving that to the students to do it on their own, because a lot of energy is actually spent into like figuring out who's going to do what, and then a lot of time is not actually spent on the task itself. So any surprises or not really? Like a lot of this I think aligns with what we had said or what folks online said. Okay, not missing anything there. Okay, so insights, just like a quick recap of things that we've already kind of come across. Insights from classroom connection in remote learning context. Opportunities to interact are valued by students. I think they're important because they're opportunities to connect. We know though that connection is not guaranteed in every interaction. It's just the first step there. It's like you attend class so you can engage in class, but attending class is not enough. There has to be more to it. And it's the same with connection and interaction. We are starting to get the sense that More interactions provide more opportunities to form and strengthen connections, and having a common goal could help foster collaboration. So we see this because a common goal would help motivate positive and productive interactions across students or among students, and this rewarding positive feeling helps bridge connection as well. Okay, oh yeah, last one. Small groups are more conducive to forming connections, and I think that even if you are an instructor and you do something like think, pair, share, where you ask students to think about any question and then pair up with someone and talk about it, and then share with the larger group. Usually, I'm finding, and I think a lot of people do find, you get a lot more response, a lot more engagement, and a lot more classroom connection building. Okay. So we've kind of covered, like, that's the online thing. So in person, what about in person? What do you think made students feel connected in the in-person learning context? I'm going to let you think about that. You can think about it on your own, or you can chat with whoever's close by to you, but would love for you to think about it for a minute or so. And for folks online, I'm happy to chat with you for a minute here, or you can think on your own about this and we can take it up. Hard to see the time here, but yeah, I will let you know. I will let you know when you have 1 minute has passed. I'm sorry, Gail, I don't know what you wrote, not really, in response to.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ah.
Like share with you. Yeah, definitely. Exactly. Like any sort of opportunity for that. Right? Exactly. But yeah. Yeah. And then exactly. We can do that for like $5 or something. We are so excited to be here. Right. You don't think that. And so I think it's provide you guys some very
All right, in-person folks, can I just cut your conversations off? Sorry. We can definitely continue afterwards if there's time. I think okay, I think we have to stop now, sorry. Okay, so sorry. So lots of things on the online chat that I want to share, and we will definitely cover some, or whoever wants to share in person, but let me just not lose track of this. Oh, I already did lose track of it. Oh no. Okay. So the question was this: what do you think made students feel connected in the in-person learning context, right? Because we just covered online. So some ideas here from Sue. In-person learning context probably felt more natural and relaxed and allowed for some casual conversations and sharing of personal info. Yes, agreed. Feeling more, this is from Lucy, feeling more accountable for and probably more interested in engagement in person compared to online. Brad is agreeing with Lucy's, maybe another question, sorry. Casual conversations as class starts or ends, both with each other and the instructor. That's from Sheila. I totally agree with that. We have a question here that hopefully we can talk about after, about think, pair, share, the use of that. In response to the question here, we have Gail saying, getting to see live reactions to what one is saying. Yeah, including nonverbal responses like facial expressions and body language. I really rely on that too. I know I'm looking down a lot here, but I do appreciating the nods here and like this, I can see like smiling eyes. So that's good behind that. Okay. What else? Okay, I think that's good. So how about in-person folks? Like anything, probably there was some overlap, but anything different from what I just read from the online folks? Or if you feel very strongly and want to reiterate a point, that's good too.
We were talking a bit about fun and how maybe
Yeah.
in-person context allow
Yeah.
for more fun and how beneficial that is for.
Yeah, that came up from students too, like in the online context, they definitely said integrating fun, humor, and I would agree. And I'll say yes, they did say that, yeah. Yes.
One thing we talked about is kind of having common tasks to do, and also for me, like especially coming back from the pandemic, thinking about, okay, if we're all going to be here in person, we're like, you know, about the health risk, got to commute. What are we doing to make this worthwhile?
Yes.
Capitalize on being in person.
Yes.
What do you do?
Yes.
In a more convenient way.
Yeah, there's definitely something different. Like everyone is mentioning, like being in person is not. There's something about being in person that can't be captured online. We're trying, like the folks I'm working with, we're trying to figure out what is that so that we can do it online, because we are big fans of online learning. We want online to work, but we know that it's exactly that, like some kind of essence of being in person is not there online. So yeah, absolutely. Anything else people want to add that's different or new or reiterating? Okay, so let's see what they said. Can I just ruin it for you and just say that, okay, we did it. We were looking into in-person context. Basically, it's like the same thing. It's like when you get down to it, what they want online is what folks want in person as well. Maybe it has to be done in different ways, but like the principles of what students are saying is basically the same. So this is work, I should have been mentioning all the names, sorry, but this is work that I'm doing with colleagues, well, from York and from Guelph, Jennifer Lazenby-Lassard and Danielle Robinson. And so here, this is an interview study, way more in depth than the questionnaires that we've been doing. So Jen conducted interviews with students. Again, it's in this project-based cross-campus capstone course, or we call it C4, at York University, which is a large university in Ontario. Students were from various faculties. Again, this is an interdisciplinary capstone course. And these data were collected in summer 2022, and it's an in-person offering. And Jen, feel free, if you're there, you can jump in and correct me if I say anything not completely accurate. Okay, but again, same kind of themes that we're finding here. So goal-oriented interactions really help a lot. Having students not just interact, but interact with a common goal, like give them a common goal and let them work towards that common goal. And I think this aligns with what we found with online, where we found working together towards a common goal. It's the same thing, different words, right? So here are some of the passages that we are coming across that would be coded in this category. So that it shows two different layers or degrees of working together, basically. The first one is like an icebreaker. The second passage is about their project and making decisions, and it's way more serious and complex. But in the beginning, it's good to have something like this. So the first passage I will read, it was actually a pretty good experience, honestly. Like the first class, I believe we had a really interactive session with our team members. Like we had a yarn ball that we had to connect to each other, and that was a really nice experience, you know, to get to know other team members. So even icebreakers, like I do icebreakers too, but I'm now finding, okay, let it be purposeful, like let there be a goal. They have to accomplish something. It's not just saying your name, your favorite color, like what are you, Aquarius, like what do you like to do, but to be more interactive and have them do some kind of task. And then it gets a bit more intense with comments like this. We actually get to make all the decisions for ourselves. They're talking about for their project, the project that they're working on for the capstone, almost all of it. And that creates a lot of connectivity among people too, because they're learning to, you know, have conversations, negotiate, share their, like when you have to explain your decisions, you're sharing your values, you're sharing your train of thought. And I think that helps students, helps people understand each other better and from there connect. So that, I thought that made sense to me, not surprised there. Another theme that's coming up is opportunities to interact and connect. You know, the passages will show that it is related to the course. And I put there the theme that we found with the online study, regular meetings that are course related. So here's what a student said. So definitely giving team members a lot of time to actually connect with each other. So during class, the teaching team, the instructors, would teach some stuff to the students, but we actually had some time to work on our project as a group. And I felt like that gave us some time to, you know, actually connect and to build a rapport. So, you know, as instructors, we can start thinking about what we can do in our course design and our course structure to make sure that we are carving out these spaces for students to connect. So maybe it is, say, like maybe students are so busy and they have part-time jobs and they have lots of, maybe they're a caregiver, you know, and it's really hard for them to find time to connect, but they have committed to the class time, they committed to coming to class. So maybe carving out 20 to 30 minutes for students to work together during that time. I think something like that could help. Maybe it's even more than that. It depends on your course and what you have to do. Casual interactions come up all the time, like all the time, and just it's the same code. So things like this, outside of class, as a team, we were to meet usually once a week on Saturday, usually 2 hours, just 2 hours, usually 2 hours just as chatting about what's going on in the course. And somehow we get off topic and we go back onto topic. So, you know, in the context of the interview, it'll be more clear, like they're talking about life. They're talking about anything, and more of themselves are coming out, and then they get back on topic. Maybe that's why it's 2 hours. I don't know. But that is what we're finding. So not that much difference in terms of online and in-person contacts, but maybe it's just how do you do it? Okay, so, okay, I thought this might happen. Are you giving me? I have 2 more minutes.
It's up to you. but
Okay.
why don't we time for the question?
Okay, right. Okay, so I thought this might happen, so I put less detail here, but I'm happy to discuss more. So next, we're going to move into the high flex learning context. I think I'm going to be done in no time, so don't worry about that. I do want to hear from you, though. I want to hear from everybody, but do you think that there's differences with high flex? High flex is hybrid flexible instruction. So here the instructor will, we're going to do this in-person thing. We're going to have students tune in online, and they could be live, like synchronously tuning in, or it could be a recording and they could watch it afterwards. It could be completely asynchronous. So that's a complicated, for me, I think it's a complex learning context. Do you think that the same factors came into play in terms of connection? What do students say about what made them feel connected in a high flex context? Yeah, and I think there's time for 30 seconds just to have a think about that. Oh, sorry, online folks. You can chat with whoever is closest to you. Yeah, well, you can do that. I'll let you know 30 seconds, like pretty strictly. 30 seconds. Yes. Okay. So I always feel bad always like stopping the conversations because it seems like you have a lot of good things to say. But I think I do. Yeah, I think we do have to carry on. So I want to share some of the comments left in the chat, and then I'll ask if anyone has anything different that they want to add. Okay, I already lost my spot. Okay, first one from Sue. The instructor's ability to integrate both in-person and online audiences. Yes, because we are talking about high flex, right? Like in-person and online live. And I mean, asynchronous. I don't know how you do that, but it won't be live. Integration, yes. Brad is saying maybe connecting with other students who are making the same choice about how to learn, for example, the mode of delivery. Yes, absolutely. Students being able, this is Audrey speaking or chatting here, students being able to work both independently, but also benefit from in-person interactions. Yeah, that's a tricky one. Let's leave it at that. That's a tricky one, yes. How about in-person, Folks, anything different from what we've already heard from online folks? Daniela.
I think one thing I've noticed being a participant in like hybrid Zoom meetings and then in my own teaching is I think it's really important to make the people at home who are either on Zoom or watching the recording later feel like they're in the room. So you've been doing a really good job of
Oh, thank you.
presentation and just a simple thing of repeating the question, like for the folks at home, like kind of like I know you exist and like here's what your classmate person had to say and you repeat the question. It just makes that connection stronger.
Yes. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I'm so bad with sayings, but I got that one. Yeah, that is like yes. Okay, before I go on, anything different though, before I elaborate on what Daniela said? That's totally fine. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. You know what, I'm gonna just like give you the long answer. The same things that we found for online, blended, in person do apply to high flex, but there were 2 additional things for the high flex, and it's exactly what Daniela said. So sometimes it's intermittently doesn't work. Okay, so let me just jump into it. Well, I will say, I will just acknowledge my colleagues, Amy Lynn, Dr. Laura Page from Seneca, this one is from, and then Natasha and Shayla are also helping out with this study. So basically we did focus groups. All of these students are from a large college, Seneca College in Ontario, lots of high flex courses being offered through this college. And, you know, exactly just what I'm saying, I do want to leave some time for questions. So I'll say, you know, casual interactions, students proactively made their own opportunities to casually interact. They appreciated opportunities to interact and connect about the course. That is in the context of the course. Like they liked it when they had Zoom breakout rooms and discussion boards and all that, and working together. You know, it just got me, what this student said. I didn't feel like there was a learning environment because it was doing all on your own. So they felt like they were doing it all on their own, and they didn't even feel like they were in a course, basically. What was different, unique to high flex? So equivalency, basically equivalency in students' experiences across online versus in person. And exactly what Daniela said, it comes down to what the instructor does, the actions of the instructor, and also the peer cooperation. So things like students in person were connecting with each other. They were talking with each other. They were sharing ideas the students online could hear, but they weren't having that same interaction. And it wasn't happening in the chat box because it wasn't being facilitated by the instructor. So you need to have that oversight. And I don't blame instructors because no one was really trained to do high flex instruction, except of course Seneca has a really good high flex training for their instructors. But anyways, it goes back to that. And, you know, basically what the students are saying, again, their comments for this, I want to go back a slide. Okay, is that they're basically saying that they didn't get those 3 things. Like they didn't have the equivalent experience of casual interactions, of, you know, working towards a common goal, of having these frequent interactions with their peers and their instructors. They felt ignored, basically. And I was just going to go over this slide again, where leading back to that initial study that I shared about students' experiences of transitioning into emergency remote instruction. There we go. The 2 basic things that are coming out, actions of the instructor and having that cooperation from their peers, that support, that interaction, could be explicit or just even hearing their peers. That's what mattered to them. And I think addressing these things in every context is basically what we should try to do, and it might help us offer higher quality, high flex online instruction. And so just reiterating everything, opportunities to interact and connect about the course, you know, regularly and frequently with peers that would be in smaller groups, but also the instructor, that's also important. Working towards a common goal in the context of a lecture, it could be the learning outcomes, but it could also be making clear to students, what is this course about? What are we trying to achieve? I think that's more important in capstone courses or project-based courses, also for group projects. Again, that passage it always hits me when they're doing it alone, it doesn't feel like learning. That's something to consider, like working together towards a common goal. I should have put together there. And the last thing is casual interactions, really because I think it helps promote better understanding of others and helps build empathy and cohesion. I had a quick chat with Simon before this talk, and one thing, anecdotally, I'm noticing when connection is stronger or more prevalent within a high flex course, there's less complaints about technology. When the students are saying, I feel like the instructor is with me and supporting both online and in person, there's less mention about the PowerPoint didn't work, the Zoom meeting got crashed or anything like that. Not like that, but that comes up when we see that there's less community and connection. So that's, I think, casual interaction was a surprise for me, but turns out I think it's super important. And that is it for me. So thank you so much. And I did include my references in case.
All right, I think we've got about 5 minutes, so maybe 1 or 2 questions. I don't know if you want to do a question that was online first, or you can do one in the room if you're willing to. All right, do you want me to? I'll take Liz in the room first, and then I can pull up that one and retype it in there. Okay.
Okay, so online folks, sorry, there's one in person, and then we'll get back to, I think Laura had a question.
Thank you for the talk. I appreciate it. I'm curious how you think of the students' insights. Personally, as an experimental social psychologist, I would view them as hypotheses, as possibilities that are worth then testing with, experimental research where you vary these things, because my assumption would be that we as individuals don't necessarily have insight into the true causes of our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. But I'm curious if you think of it that same way, or if you see this as kind of being like the final word in terms of, what really is working for students.
Yeah, no, thank you for that comment. And I also I have an experimental background as well. And so somehow I did kind of venture into this area that's way more about perceptions, like what students are saying. But I don't think it's the final say. I think it's an interesting way to start exploring ideas and maybe to identify questions of interest. So for example, with connection, I just think it's really interesting that the perceptions, like students have these perceptions, and it seems to be predictive of how well they'll do in a course. But I would very much like to follow through with maybe some more experimentally based work. So maybe not in the lab, maybe in the context of a classroom. So like moving towards that would be using a validated, reliable scale for classroom connection and seeing, can we replicate this initial preliminary finding that we saw, and like, what does it mean, and go from there. So I think I'm interested in general, I'm interested in people. I'm interested in what they think and what they say, but I do totally agree with you that we can't always explain what is the cause of our behavior, or our actions, or our thoughts. So I would like to move into that direction. This is all of it, and I appreciate that comment. All of this is just like in the beginning phases, and I'm entering this new kind of area of interest, but definitely would like to kind of, I don't want to say dissect, but dissect a bit. Yeah, dissect a bit. Yeah. So for long answer short, like, no, I don't think it's a final say. Yeah, for sure.
There was the question on.
Oh, yes.
I probably did it, so it should be at the bottom of the chat.
Is that from Laura?
No, this is the one from Francis.
Okay.
I can read it if you want, but
Sure,
essentially Francis was asking, when we were talking about connection, in having students do things like think, pair, share with the benefit of connection, but that there are some students who don't choose to engage with Think, Pair, Share, and sort of whether they should be pushed towards that. Is there a benefit of pushing students towards connection, or do we sort of respect students' decision to opt out?
I think that's a great, I mean, is that for me or is it for anybody who wants to just take a step? Is that for me or just everybody?
I think it was posed sort of both to you
Sure,
and
okay.
then to everybody.
Yeah, you know, I will say this, you're not alone. Francis, okay, so you're not alone. Like, I've definitely tried to do things that I think are good for students. Like, one would be even posting videos. Think, Pair, Share, absolutely. There's always some students who don't want to participate. I'm finding though that it's kind of like you have to kind of first make or build that atmosphere, or that and I'm not saying that you have not done this, but you need to kind of create this atmosphere of making students feel comfortable to do those things. And then I think that they would do it. Like, in the past, I've had like dramatic, like in extreme non-participation. And what I've slowly moved towards is starting class with, you know, making co-creating a classroom code of conduct. Like, how would you like students? How would you like this class to be conducted? What are some rules that you want to follow? Like, get everyone to explicitly say on the same page, what would make you feel comfortable and safe to participate, to share your ideas, and have that set out in the outset. And then also just doing as much as you can to make students feel comfortable. But to your comment, I think we have to respect, if students don't want to participate, then you can leave them, because who knows what kind of state they're in or what they're dealing with. And sometimes, you know, they are adults, so they can choose that. But I will say, sometimes what I say is that if you have to get up to find someone to sit with and talk to, please do so. One of the things I always try to say at the beginning of my course is, let's make sure everyone is included. Let's make sure everyone is participating. So if you see someone sitting alone, please do try to invite them to your group. It's okay if there's 3 of you. It's okay if there's 2 or 4. Just make sure everyone is engaging. So I don't know. I don't have answers. I just, that's what I would do. And I think you're probably already doing that. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on to that or ideas.
We should probably wrap it up. We should probably call the talk to a close, because I have to get you to your lunch.
Okay.
But I think that's probably a question for us to continue debating and discussing.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully you'll continue conducting research on the field so we can learn from it and get the insights. But anyway, I would like everybody to join me in thanking Dr. Alice Kim for visiting us today.
This has been very fun. Thank you. Thank you folks online too. Thank you.